Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. One of the things that really fascinated me when I was growing up in the rural areas of Manitoba was these prairie churches that show up in the middle of the country. And for me, usually a church is associated with a town. So I found these churches really interesting and wanted to learn a little bit of history. And here is a small video that shows four of them just south of Edmonton, we'll say. One of the reasons for these churches being outside of town could have been for such things as the land prices. It might have been more expensive to build the church in town, for instance. Many of these churches, at least the original churches, took on what's called a prairie style due to the climate, the building materials, or the expertise that was available at the hand. Some were actually even built before a priest was even available. The churches that I depicted here are all being used. Although there are some that are abandoned, but these prairie churches are available throughout Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta. You can find them. And they were started up by groups such as German immigrants, Polish immigrants, Slavic, Ukrainian, and they all wanted to follow their specific religions that they had known in their old country. Unfortunately, one of the things that's too bad here is that I was not able to show you what the inside of these churches look like. It's an unfortunate thing with where we live here is that most of these churches are locked if it's not on a Sunday morning. I found it interesting when I went to Japan that it didn't matter whether it was a church, a temple, or a shrine, they were all open. So kind of maybe a sad testament here. A lot of these were established in the late 1800s. Some of the original churches were a sod and log building where usually they built the next church, maybe a more permanent church in the 1910s to 1930s, with a lot of these ones being depicted here being within that time frame. A lot of them had their own cemeteries, and some are still being used. I was driving by one church that I couldn't go to on the day I planned because there was actually a funeral being held that day, so they are still being used. A lot of these churches were the first of their kinds in the area, one of which was the First Baptist Church north of Calgary back in 1892. Back in the day, it was these churches were started up by, like I said, settlers from different parts of Europe. A lot of times the towns were very far away. But it's interesting now because, as you can see by some of this video, these churches are very close to main highways now with lots of traffic going by. This one's indicating the year that Centennial was held. This current church was built in 1910 by depicted here. Karen showing the original church, I believe. Yeah, I like this one because it had a nice creek in the back. You can see the back of it here slowly coming into view behind the trees there. It's a nice place to go. Now this one is the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. And it was one of the ones that was built outside of Kalmar. So it's west of Kalmar, Alberta. And it was not built in town because of the land prices. So the reason it's in the prairies here is because the land prices were cheaper. The original temple bell, which was in a previous church, I believe. And then, of course, a cemetery associated with the church itself.